I'm Phil Glennon, the video archivist for the city of Tega Cay. In order to preserve the history of Tega Cay, I have compiled a documentary, and with those interviews plus a few other supporting documents which we portray, we try to give you the real story of Tega Cay. This is Barbara Oswald, whose ex-husband was Jerry Harris, who was president of the Irwin Company at the time when Tega Cay was formed. She has a lot of experience in the early stages of Tega Cay. Would you tell me, Barbara, how the idea of Tega Cay came about?
Well, I think before we can understand how Tega Cay came about, we'd have to understand why it came about. And to do that, I would have to tell you a little bit about our family at the time.
Good.
And a vacation that we planned. We have 6 children, and at the time they were all under the age of 10 years old, and we wanted a vacation one summer. And one child would want someplace to go where we could swim, and the others would want to go where they could play tennis, and the others would want to go where they could play golf. And everybody had all the different things they wanted to do. And we were perplexed as to how we were going to get all this in one family vacation.
Now this time frame was in the 60s?
This was in the, yes, late 60s.
Like 1967 or thereabouts.
Right, right.
Okay.
So we settled on a family camping trip and decided that would be the answer for all of these things that we wanted to do. So we loaded up the station wagon with all the children and all the paraphernalia, and we headed out to the campgrounds in South Carolina, down around Myrtle Beach at the time. It truly proved to be a disastrous vacation.
And how many children did you have?
This is 6 children and the babysitter and the 2 parents.
Wow.
All of us novices with camping, so not the brightest idea, I'm afraid.
Well, you have to try things, you know, see how they work out.
So we did. We went camping, and everybody had a chance to do the things they wanted to do, and then it came time to come back home, and we loaded the station wagon again, and the top was loaded, the inside was loaded, and we get ready to drive out. And this is after it had rained the night before, and then we have a flat tire and have to unload the car, change the tire, start all over again. So all the way home, I think I was a little bit less than happy, and I told my ex-husband, I said, there has got to be a better way for a family to have a vacation and to be able to swim and play golf and tennis and all these fun things without having to go through all this trouble to pack up and leave home. Why can't we have this at home? And I really did not think that was going to make an impression on him, but apparently it did, because when he got back to work at the Irwin Company and he began to look around and think about this idea, he found out there was this land that Crescent Land and Timber had, and the Irwin Company began to negotiate, and he did the negotiation, and therefore the land was found, and they decided this would be the ideal place for families to live, to have a vacation type life and still not have to have the hassle of leaving.
So by that time, the Irwin Company and the Crescent Land and Timber Company had formed a partnership, and the partnership had obtained the land from the Crescent Land and Timber Company before the partnership was consummated, and you went on from there with the joint ownership of what is now Tega Cay by the Urban Company and the Crescent Land and Timber Company. All right, repeating a little bit here, but the property had been purchased, and then you were trying to decide how to develop it, I presume. So what happened next? I know your ex-husband had some ideas about what the property should be like, but how did you go about getting the name of Tega Cay?
Well, at the time we were in that negotiation, we also took a trip to the Caribbean, and we were really impressed with the pretty names in the Caribbean, the names of islands and the names of the different places that we went. And we kept talking to the people there about how pretty this land and on the water was back at home. And we would talk about how pretty the peninsula was. And people would say, oh, peninsula. And they related that to the Polynesian name, which is Tega Cay, meaning pretty peninsula. Mm-hmm. So that...
I guess technically it's beautiful peninsula.
Beautiful, yeah,
right.
Technically right. Beautiful peninsula. So that basically is how it came about.
So you picked out the name of Tega Cay when you were in the Caribbean, and you were then you had it named. And what was the next step? There are an awful lot of streets around here that have Polynesian names too.
Right, and that was another trip that we took, which was to Hawaii. And there again we saw pretty names and streets and islands, and we thought, gee whiz, that would fit in real well with the area of Tega Cay and the idea of Tega Cay. So that's how we got so many of those names for the streets out here.
Like Molokai and Marquesas.
Molokai and and Palmyra. When we were talking about naming the streets, and it was sort of a family thing, sitting around, how do you name the main street coming in? And all the children said, oh, let's name it for us. Let's name it Harris Road or Harris Street. But my husband and I did not think that was right. Tega Cay was for all of the people. It wasn't just for, or should not single out just the one family or one person. So we wanted it to be something that everybody could feel a part of.
Well, that was really the start, I guess, of not naming things around Tega Cay for individual people, except in exceptional cases. And it's a good idea. It stemmed from you not naming what is now Tega Cay Drive, Harris Boulevard.
Yeah.
And I think that's very good. So you had it named, you had the streets named, and this was in the early 70s, was it?
Right, correct.
In the early 70s. And so the development went on from there. And I understand that your ex-husband had some ideas about how Tega Cay should end up. Would you tell me a little bit about how he developed those ideas and what he did to record them, if he ever did?
And are you saying maybe how he sold it, how he...
No, how he laid it out. He had some ideas about where the clubhouse was and things like that.
He wanted everything to be so family oriented. And again, we were just sort of like the idea of what would suit our family would certainly suit all the others with as many children as we had. So we needed to be sure we had a swimming pool and a golf course and the clubhouse and the church and things like that. But for the safety of the children and people getting to and from places, so as not to have to be on the street doing this, he planned and wanted to have biking and hiking trails so that you could get to any part of Tega Cay or any area safely without actually having to go on the road.
So he had quite a vision of what Tega Cay should be,
Right.
and being the owner of the company, the developer, he could implement those, and I guess he started to do that.
Yes, and money unfortunately became a problem.
Yeah.
And you can't always do everything you'd like, but we knew we needed to have daycare and all the facilities that a family would need without having to leave. Everything should be so compact that you really didn't have to leave.
So you had a good idea of what it should be like, and what amenities should be here, and unfortunately money got in the way a little bit, didn't it?
It did.
And ultimately the urban company did go bankrupt later in the 1970s.
Right. Yeah.
Well, going back to the early stages of what is now was Tega Cay, would you tell me what was done to market Tega Cay, some of the things that were done to attract people to the area? Because you develop something, you got to sell the property.
Correct, yeah. Well, everything was done that could be done, and it was fun doing it, because we would have Coke stands all throughout the area, and shuttle buses that would meet people as they came into the area, park up at the entrance, and get off out of your car, get on a shuttle bus, and a salesman would take you through and talk you through the community and explain it all to you, showing you all the layout and the plans while you ate your cookies and drank your Cokes. And we had the child care system that was free, so you could leave your children while you leisurely looked around for the area.
I understand that there were some cottages that were set aside to where people could stay when they were looking over the property.
Exactly, yes. Out-of-towners would come in and need to have a place, and that was the provision that we made for them.
Now those cottages, I understand, were around Catamaran, in that area.
Yes.
There were other things you did. I understand that there was a barge called
Kon Tiki, yes. That was fun.
Everybody smiles when you say Kon Tiki. It must have been a fun thing.
It was fun. It really was. It was a big, beautiful houseboat. We'd get it full of people, and Captain Carroll would be on it and go up and down the lake, and there again have a commentary as you would see the shoreline and all of the property from the water. A wonderful, wonderful way to sell the water and the land. Lots of parties on there used by the people to show the land and to try to sell, as well as to let other companies come in and use the facility. That was a good, fun place.
Yeah. I guess there were other things that you did, but little things mean an awful lot to people who are coming in, and obviously you were showing them around all the time and treating them as a good host and hostesses would.
You did, and you know, so many people would end up coming to Tega Cay to visit and stay overnight or just drop by, and they fell in love with it. You either like Tega Cay or you don't. It's just not for everybody, but for those who are looking for this kind of lifestyle, it's ideal. It really is.
Well, Barbara, you've given me a good background on the early days of Tega Cay, how it got its name, and it's fascinating that I've found the person who picked out the name. And I appreciate your giving me your time, and I know that people who are in Tega Cay will be interested to know what you've said.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.